A powerful hurricane likely in the Atlantic this week. The question is, where is it going? And that's what we'll answer in today's video. Welcome in, folks. Great to see you on this Sunday, August 10th now. Yeah, finally in the double digits of the month. I say finally like it's been a slow month. This month has flown by. You thought July was quick. Yeah, August going even quicker. And as you would expect this time of the year, sure enough, as you can see next to me, we are watching for some potential tropical trouble in the Atlantic. And I say potential, no matter what, I think we're guaranteed at least a tropical storm, and I would put really high probabilities of a hurricane, and I'd even say a good 50-60% chance we see a major hurricane out of Invest 97L, newly designated yesterday, still well off near Africa, but as you can see from some of our latest model guidance, yeah, getting close enough to the United States on a lot of our data here that it's worth watching, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte, and if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Doing all those things really helps me out a lot, helps the channel out a lot, and it helps these videos reach more people. Also, let me know where you're watching from and how you're preparing for hurricane season as we continue to track along through these end of summer and early fall months. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into the data today and give you the latest. Yeah, you can see next to me, this is the brand new latest run of our Canadian computer model, and I like to always kind of switch up what data I show you here at the beginning of the video, and usually I pick the model that I think is the most realistic right now, and I think this one doing a pretty good job. It shows that general idea of an intensifying hurricane curving generally towards the out to sea area, however, getting close enough to the United States that we need to watch it, especially if you're anywhere from Florida up through the East Coast. I think that's going to be the area that needs to watch this the most. Also, if you're watching in Bermuda, this could be a storm that you need to watch, and well on down the road, Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, yeah, you know that you're not safe from hurricanes always either. So plenty of places that needs to keep an eye on this. The good news is right now the highest probability outcome is an out to sea track. However, it is not a guarantee, and that's why we're going to go over all the data in today's video. Now, I'll show you the latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center, and you can see here that sure enough, they are watching this. I'll refresh just to see if they have a new outlook out yet, but I doubt they do. Yeah, so we're running an 80% chance of development here in that big red swath anytime from now through the week ahead. This is likely to get that E name, which would be Aaron. And like I said, a hurricane also becoming a pretty likely outcome. Now to the north, we do have another little area to watch here in yellow. That one's got a low end chance of development. Unlikely it gets a name. And either way would not be a problem for anyone. That's going to go find the Titanic wreckage before it finds any humans. So that's the good news there on the National Hurricane Center map. Now, let's go ahead and switch on over to satellite because we're watching this area. Another little sneaky area I'm watching as well in the Atlantic that might have a small shot at development. The Atlantic Basin definitely starting to fire up more activity. Again, you would expect that this time of year. Let's go ahead and circle a couple of these areas for you. This is that small little area that has a very low wind chance of developing out in the Atlantic. Like I said, unlikely to do anything. And then here is Invest 97L, a healthy looking storm. And we're going to dive into these areas more zoomed in region by region here in just a moment. But then notice the East Coast. We've had a pattern of basically these low pressure systems developing off the northeast coastline and pulling on out to sea. And that's left a bit of a surface trough kind of right into this region on the map off much of the East Coast. That's led to increased thunderstorm activity. You can see that here along the Carolina coastline down into Florida and really through much of the Gulf Coast as well. If we zoom on into this region, though, you'll notice we've got a little pocket of thunderstorms here that look pretty impressive off the southeast coast, or southwest coast, I should say, of the Sunshine State here, not far from Fort Myers and Cape Coral, again, just off the coast there in the Gulf. This not designated by the National Hurricane Center, at least right now. They could add an area at 2 o'clock, which is unfortunately about 45 minutes from now, so I'm not going to quite get that update here for you. But either way, whether they add it or not, this does have a very low wind chance of developing. If you've been paying attention for the past couple of weeks, I told you by this weekend an area of energy would get into the Gulf, and this is it. And I mean, it looks pretty impressive. The model's not overly excited, but we've got an upper level anticyclone, and that's going to be another key component for 97L in that forecast. Basically, upper level piece of energy that's just spreading out the air and fanning it out, and that's fueling this complex of storms. The good news right now is this is more of just a complex of storms. It's not super tropical. Now, it could try to make that transition, and that's what I'm going to watch for. I think a worst case scenario is this does get a quick name before moving up generally towards the Panhandle and into the southeast later on this week. But, the stronger it gets now, the more of an impact it could have on that southeastern rain forecast. So interesting little area there that we're going to watch for you and keep you updated on. Not overly concerned, but always watching anything that looks impressive on satellite, especially in the Gulf where we have just, plenty warm enough ocean temperatures to get something going this time of year. All right, now back to 97L. Here it is on satellite, and it's got that classic shrimp look. It's the look we always talk about. Anytime you see kind of this shrimp look where you've got, we'll say like the head of the shrimp here, and then here's the body and the tail of the shrimp. We even put a little eye here. So there you go. You can see the shrimp look. That's normally a precursor to something that's going to become a named storm pretty soon. And honestly, conditions right now aren't even that favorable. So the fact it's already starting to get tropical characteristics before it even hits a really favorable pocket of the atmosphere, which it will this week ahead, is a sign of, that this one's going to probably have legs to run. And I think pretty likely we'll get our first hurricane of the year. Like I mentioned, maybe even a major hurricane not out of the question, which will likely become Aaron. All right, that's what it looks like right now. Let's go back into the Atlantic. Let's take a look at these ingredients, and I'll show you why I think it's going to strengthen, and then we'll take a look at the potential track that the storm could take. As we've been discussing, the Atlantic running pretty warm, but not everywhere. And this is what I was talking about with 97L, future Aaron, actually in a part of the Atlantic right now that isn't really that warm. Now, warm enough for development, but cooler than it normally is this time of year. And so, the fact the storm's already getting going, like I said, as it continues tracking off towards the west and northwest, it's going to hit warmer waters, higher anomaly in terms of the temperatures out here. And because of that, if you look at the raw numbers, again, this maps the anomaly. So the more red and orange it is, the warmer it is compared to what it normally would be this time of year, and blue meaning the opposite of that. You see these red and these orange and even some of these pink colors out in the Southwest Atlantic. That is explosive levels of sea surface fuel for any potential hurricane to grab onto. And that would obviously help it strengthen in a big time way. So this is one big component here to the forecast. Also, why I'm watching that area in the Gulf, you could see some of the warmest waters in the Atlantic, right where that complex of storms is. So, this will be definitely something that fuels higher end chances of this becoming a hurricane and even a powerful major hurricane on the table, partially due to this. But like I mentioned right now, not even overly warm. It's got to wait till it gets about halfway across the Atlantic before it hits this. So I don't expect a hurricane anytime over the next couple of days, maybe a tropical storm over the next 48 to 72 hours. But it's really once it gets a little bit closer to the islands here, it's going to hit these very warm sea surface temperatures. That's not the only thing it's going to hit, folks. It's also going to hit a pocket of very favorable upper level winds. Let's show you that. I told you about an upper level anticyclone. What in the world does that mean? Well, basically, like I mentioned, it's upper level high pressure. And what happens with high pressure is it spreads air out from it. Meteorology 101, if you ever take an intro to meteorology course, one of the first things you'll learn is wind blows from high to lower pressure. Lower pressure at the surface, it's got lower pressure, so it needs something to fill that space. So all the air blows towards it. Higher pressure, it's going to fill that lower pressure, so the air is spreading out. That can happen at the surface and the upper levels. And we've got a couple upper level high pressures or anticyclones here. We've got one right here, and then we've got one, right over Florida where that system is. That's why it looks so impressive on satellite. It's getting fanned out, and that's lowering the pressure at the surface and increasing the chance that we need to watch that one for maybe a quick named storm coming out of it. But it's this upper level high pressure over the Atlantic here that is going to track on top of 97L and really help fuel it a little bit. So watch what happens here. Right now, actually some pretty strong upper level trade winds over the storm. That's keeping it in check for now. That combined with the lower sea surface temperatures. But once we get to about, here we go, Wednesday into Thursday of this week ahead, notice what happens. We've got that surface low pressure, and we've got this upper level anticyclone, and you can see it here. It's blowing winds kind of away from the storm as it kind of gets trapped up under that, and that's going to help to really, give this a boost of energy. And it's happening at the same time it's hitting these warmer sea surface temperatures. So that's one of the reasons I think it's very likely we get Hurricane Aaron out of this, and you can see it only gets more favorable. By the time we get to next Friday, into next Saturday, into next Sunday, this is a pretty pristine environment for rapid intensification, and then it could stay that way as it continues up the East Coast. Now, how close to the East Coast is that? We'll talk about in just a second. But the final piece of the puzzle here for strength is humidity. Do we have a lot of dry air around? If there's anything I think that can maybe help keep this storm in check, it's probably going to be this part of the forecast. We do have some dry air in the Atlantic. It's been a pretty arid year out here. We've had a lot of Sahara dust get thrown out into the North Atlantic. And you can see here right now, the storm's kind of cocooned in its own pocket of moisture, helping it to, again, keep that kind of favorable shrimp look. As we go ahead into time, it's really not going to get much better for it. I mean, you can see it kind of runs into some dry air here as it approaches north of the islands here by the middle of this week. But as that's happening, remember, it's getting upper level diffluence, or that upper level fanning of winds. It's got warmer sea surface temperatures. So more data points to a strengthening storm than not. But you can definitely see here, there's dry air in the vicinity of the storm. By the time we get into next weekend even, and then maybe it hits a pocket of more moisture and it tries to, balloon out and become a stronger system. But that's what it looks like in the upper levels. And you can see that's why we think this one's got a pretty good shot to run. And then obviously the final question becomes, well, where in the world is it going? So let's switch on over, take a look at some upper level maps and answer that question. This is easily the most challenging part of the forecast right now for the future of 97L, and that's where in the world is it going? So here's the upper level map. This is by this coming Friday, and at that point, the storm is going to be probably right into here. And to this point, we're pretty confident about the forecast. This is most likely going to go north of the Antilles, north of Puerto Rico. Now, it could be a little north, or it could be a pretty good ways north. That part's still up for interpretation, but going to be pretty far north in terms of the core of the storm, at least. Now, what's next? Well, let's walk you through what we have here. We've got one upper level high pressure here. We've got some ridging. We've got another ridge here. And basically what these do is they want to keep, moving this thing westbound. But you notice what we have right here? Yeah, we've got a trough axis, and that's kind of splitting the difference here between these two high pressures. And that is going to be the potential escape route for this storm. This is when it's going to have the opportunity to pull north and not become a problem to the United States, potentially. There's even more to it than that, but that would put Bermuda in the sights of this storm, so we'll need to watch it for you folks. There's also a chance that if this thing stays far enough south and it's still weak enough at the point it gets to this off-ramp, if you will, it could keep going and miss it. Now, the stronger a storm is, the more likely it is to pull north. It just wants to gain latitude. It's just the way it works in the world of meteorology. So if we've got a very, strong major hurricane and it's already kind of far north out here at this point, this one likely takes the escape route and should spare the east coast of the United States at least. Now, Canada, Bermuda, you're still in the path of this thing, even with a track like that. Let's say it does that, though, there's still another opportunity for it to kind of get shoved back east. Notice that off-ramp gets closed off, and some of our models getting another ridge here from Canada to work into the northeast and once again kind of move over the North Atlantic. So there are multiple options here. Right now, the most likely option is it pulls north. I'd say probably between Bermuda and the United States is the most likely outcome. And, obviously that's too close for comfort. Some models and some options are it does that, then gets pulled back towards the United States a little bit before going back out to sea. And that could maybe put the Northeast and Canada in the crosshairs of this thing. Like I said, it could just stay super strong and just get out to sea, completely take that first option. It could stay weak, keep going east or west rather, and then try to pull up north and maybe be a Carolina problem. Still a lot of options on the table, but I think the most likely one right now, again, as is, that this one takes that out to sea route. And you can see that here on the ensembles. If I keep my face on the right side of the screen here, you can see this is the European ensembles, latest data we have. And most members here, pull this north. This is 10 days from now. Most of them have it moving due north, generally near Bermuda. So that would be a problem for Bermuda. But we do have a cluster down here that don't take that exit ramp, a good maybe 10 members or so. That's probably about 20% of them that keep it moving towards the United States. And when you're 10 plus days away and you've got, still a significant number of members that show something like that, you want to keep an eye on it. Now, we're not panicked, we're not worried, but still just keeping tabs on it. And we're not even at the point that we can really analyze every single model run or every new set of runs. It's really a once a day kind of thing at this range. And you kind of watch the long-term trends. And right now, the trend has been better for the United States. It looks a little bit more likely to pull up out to sea, but still not guaranteed. Now, the GFS ensembles are even more excited about that potential of it going on out to sea. I'll see if we have the 12Z data in. Let's see. Today is the 10th 12Z, so it's not going to quite go out far enough yet. It's only run that far. But the GFS models, either way, a little bit more excited this is going to pull on out to sea. Let me show you one more data set of models. This is the Google AI, and this is right at 10 days from now. And notice the spread's still wide enough that, we need to keep an eye on it. They have it anywhere from Bermuda. Let me pick a color and see a little bit better. Anywhere from Bermuda to, the Florida coastline. So that's a big spread, and obviously close enough to the United States and land in general that you want to keep tabs on this storm. So that's the latest here on 97L. Confident this will become a hurricane, less confident on the track, but the trend since yesterday has been more likely to pull on out to sea. Not guaranteed, but more likely. So you're definitely going to want to keep on coming back every day for the latest on this one. And also some signs on down the road that maybe the next wave after this one also could try to become a named storm. So plenty going on in the Atlantic to talk about. All right, let's bring things on back home, give you an update on that lower 48 forecast, and then let you go enjoy the rest of your weekend. We've been talking about that potential for some flooding over the Midwest, and yeah, sure enough, we've had that concern. We've got flood watches, we've got heavy rain, flash flood warnings. In fact, the Milwaukee area just got it hard and heavy yesterday, still dealing with flash flood warnings and more rain falling up that way. So that is one of the big stories right now back home. Also down into the southeast seeing heavy rain. We've got pretty good showers and storms along the Carolina coastline and even up into the Midlands of South Carolina, out towards Augusta, Florida seeing some rain. Here's that big blob of energy off the coastline I was telling you about earlier. Yeah, looking a little tropical. Need to watch that one for sure. And then, just rain all around this big trough axis I've told you about. Again, that's helping to create some surface convergence and thus some rain falling here over this part of the world. Northeast, pretty nice day today. Ohio Valley not looking half bad either. Just we've got rain on two different parts of the country that is leading to some problems out there. Now, let's give you the latest here on what's to come. Where is all this energy going? Well, I think really the theme over the next couple of days is one, continuing rain in the southeast. Now, not a washout most days, some days for some of us, yes. But to the north, though, we've got these big pieces of energy or these big troughs swinging on down out of Canada. And that's a sign that, yeah, the seasons are starting to change. Now, it's only August 10th, so it's not fall yet by any means. But, you see these big storms start to work further south. And that means that we are, getting further on closer to those winter and fall months. And that is always something that makes me excited, at least. So that's a sign of good news for those of us that are tired of the summer. Now, a little interesting feature here, I should say, on the European model, little pieces of energy, that's what I was trying to say, and then a whole bunch of everything came out, kind of rotating around this ridge, and could bring these little storm systems into the southeast over the coming days, including that blob over Florida right now. We're just off the coast. It would, again, likely pull up towards the Panhandle, towards Alabama, and then could even curve back into the Carolinas. That could affect the rainfall forecast. That could add more rain to the forecast by the middle part of this week than maybe is showing up right now. So we'll watch that for sure. And then obviously these big troughs continuing to kind of ride the U.S.-Canadian border over the foreseeable future. What does that mean in terms of the surface map? Well, here we go. Let's back it up to where we are now. We've got these surface pieces of energy up into Canada, continuing to watch for flooding in the same area that's already seen it, from Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, up into portions of northern Illinois and northern Missouri. Kind of that training factor. Again, I've been telling you about it for a couple of days now. It's going to continue through at least today and into tomorrow, and then obviously heavy rain down into the southeast, with that surface trough just parked over the Gulf Stream and continuing to bring rounds of moisture into the southeastern United States. Good news, though, is that's kept it cooler than maybe it would be most starts of August, and just has been a very cool August in general. Days ahead, yeah, same thing. It's that corridor in the Midwest. Watch for flooding. Have a way to get watches and warnings, obviously, especially if you live in a flood-prone area. Other than that, rain continuing in the southeast, more of the same. Now, we are going to get a pretty big storm system up near the Hudson Bay of Canada here by the early part of this coming week. That likely drops a front into the United States, so we could see a line of showers and storms push through really much of the country here by the middle part of this coming week, and could even cross into the northeast and maybe southeast by the time we get to next Thursday, Friday, maybe even next Saturday. Could see increasing rain chances once more. So that's really what it is, folks. I mean, it's not a whole lot going on. Just these little storm systems, or pretty big ones, I should say, but the core of them further north, and that's contributing to some flooding out there that we need to continue to watch. Other than that, how much rain exactly is going to fall and where the temperature's headed? Well, let's switch on over and take a look. With a ridge of high pressure off the southeast coastline and really most of these fronts getting stuck up north, that means humidity is returning for a lot of us. Still kind of nice actually in the northeast. We've had this pocket of drier air hanging around for quite some time. I do think by the time we get on into this coming Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, notice the muggy meter rising here for most of us. Dew points rising. That means more moisture in the atmosphere. And that means, yeah, it's going to start to feel sticky once more. Now, there are signs that front I mentioned could get through the northeast by next weekend and bring some drier air. We'll watch for that. This is by next Saturday and Sunday, but generally speaking, I don't see any big sweeping cold fronts that are going to bring big relief from any sort of humidity over the next 7 days across the lower 48. Temperature-wise, you can definitely see, we're starting to think about warming back up, still cooler than average in the southeast, mainly due to the cloud cover and some of the rain that is falling, but starting to warm up big time into the northeast this weekend, and the start of this week, I should say, and continuing through much of the week. And by the time we get all the way out to next weekend, generally speaking, much of the United States running back above average outside of maybe the West Coast. So, outside of the rain and the flooding, there's no big anomalies out there right now to watch for. The flooding, I think, is the biggest threat. And then, some people are seeing cooler than average starts to August, especially in the southeast where it's been almost a little weird how cool it's been. But no, huge storm systems outside of the tropics to really talk about. Rainfall, this is from the European model now through next, or really just through this work week, I should say. Highest in totals. Again, watch this belt here from Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and then also the southeast, the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, the Gulf Coast from New Orleans eastbound on I-10, going to have higher in rainfall totals as well. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's your forecast. That's all I've got for you on this Sunday. Again, you can catch me on WCCB Charlotte tonight at 6 and 10 if you're interested in that. And if not, then you can catch me back here tomorrow with another video. Y'all have a great one. Stay safe. I'll see you all next time.